On this episode of Game Shack, it's part one of my DIY virtual pinball series. I ask if Arcade1up is asking too much money for their stand-up OUTRUN game, and I give you my rules for buying any retro arcade system. All that and more coming up next. Hey everybody, it's JDV here for EvilGeniusEntertainment.com. Thanks for stopping by the Game Shack. I hope you guys had a good weekend. A little bit of news broke over the weekend, and that's because Walmart had a fire sale on Arcade1up's Galaga tabletop game, and AtGames' two-player pro console standalone, that was on sale for $99. At $49, the Galaga game was a steal, of course, and at $99 for the AtGames standalone was a steal too. I'm not exactly sure why that fire sale happened. I can't imagine they had that many of those things backed up in stock, but maybe they did. Maybe there are some more things coming down the pipe. But those were great prices for those products, and unsurprisingly, they sold out on Saturday night. I didn't pick up either one, because I just picked up the cabinet from AtGames back behind me, and I think that an 8-inch screen is just a little too small for my ancient eyes, and I really don't care about the portability aspect because I just want to be able to play them here in the Game Shack. So that didn't quite appeal to me, but I can understand why it did appeal to a lot of people, and no surprise they sold out. And I actually think that, $50, $60 is about the right price on those, especially if they're not going to have light up marquees. So maybe that's a good sign coming down the pipe. At $100 for the standalone Ultimate Pro deck, that was a great deal, and if I hadn't gotten that thing before, I probably would have picked that up. Okay, one of the things that didn't sell out over the weekend was Arcade1up's stand-up version of OUTRUN. That's for sale on the Home Shopping Network for $5.99 plus $57 shipping and handling. So at almost $700 when you add in tax, this stand-up OUTRUN game violates my #1 rule for buying any retro arcade unit, and that is to not pay more than $100 per game on that cabinet. And 4 games for $700, oh boy, you better love OUTRUN, and it looks like not that many people are willing to pay that price, because I'm pretty sure now it's been on sale over at Home Shopping Network for at least a week now, I think. I know I am interested in the sit-down version, and I hope I can pick it up on sale for $5 or less. Maybe not, but I know one thing, I will not be paying $600 plus shipping and handling plus tax for the stand-up version. But you guys tell me what you think. What do you think of my $100 per game rule on a cabinet too? So let's get into the meat of the episode. And for this part one of the series, what I want to do is talk about building from scratch versus modding a cabinet. I'll tell you right off the bat that modding the cabinet is of course going to be infinitely easier to do, because you can look at it, you can touch it, you can just see, oh no, my TV's not going to fit in there. Oh, or yeah, it will. Or you just know you're starting off at a very strong starting place, and depending on what unit you get, you'll already have art that you like on the machine, so you won't have to mess around with painting it or adding vinyl decals or whatever down the line. And frankly, that is the route I was going to go when I started thinking about building my own cabinet way back in December, but nothing was available to buy. So I just kept on going step by step by step until finally I just ended up building the whole thing. But some people aren't going to be able to build it. If you live in a real small apartment or something, the odds are you don't have a table saw, right? So I understand why people are not going to necessarily want to build from scratch. So that's why I thought in this episode what I would do is I'm going to give you the dimensions for all of the most popular games, and I'll give you a dimensions for my game, just to kind of by way of comparison. So when you see me play it, you'll get an idea of how big it is in comparison to other units. Okay, so let's start off with the cheapest and work our way up to the most expensive game. And the cheapest game on this list, and the one that I would maybe most look at first, is Toyshock's Haunted House game. At 51 inches high, 30 inches long and 17 inches wide. This is the smallest of any of the games I'm going to mention. The 30 inches long is where you might have some concern, because at that length, I measured my 32-inch TV, and it seems like maybe you could actually fit a 32-inch diagonal TV into a 30-inch cabinet, but I'm not sure about that. I hope to pick one of these games up when it becomes available, hopefully sometime in April, but I can't guarantee it. So if you're looking primarily to have a 32-inch or larger screen, I don't know about the Haunted House game. But I know a lot of people have been using these because they are well built and they're pretty cheap. So there are a lot of pre-existing mods. I think To Die For has a mod on it, almost like a 2-hour series on it. And I know Detroit Love did a small series on modding his. So check out those two channels if you're interested in modding the smallest and cheapest. Okay, next up on the list is Well Played's version for $500. At 65 inches high, it is actually the tallest unit on here. It's actually taller than AtGames. It's 34 inches long, so you almost certainly could put a 32-inch monitor into it, and it's 21 inches wide, so it's decently wide too. And as I've mentioned before in other shows, it has a very nice angle, a good viewing angle, I think, for VPN. So it is definitely something I thought about buying just because I do like the shape of it. I like the size. I like that it's lightweight. I like that the backboard, you just take that completely out and you can put a monitor in there. You don't have, I mean, there's not a whole lot to worry about in terms of destroying the unit. But at $500 for just essentially a shell that does not have great artwork. I don't love the artwork on that game. And again, $500 is a lot of money for something that is probably the least well built of any of the units I'm going to mention. But I do think it has the right size, and it's $50 cheaper than the next competitor, which is, of course, Arcade1up's Marvel, Star Wars, and Attack from Mars units. I do think that this particular design hits the sweet spot in terms of a 3/4 scale sizing for pinball. It's 59.5 inches tall. Again, talking about the backboard, it's exactly 3 feet long, and it's 20.5 inches wide. So as Doug over at Cool Toy showed, you can put a 32-inch monitor in this. You might have to trim out the sides a little bit, and I can't remember if he was able to get the glass on top of it or not in that, but he did show that you could put a 32-inch monitor into that. And so that's pretty cool. You can also perfectly slide, I think it's a 21-inch monitor into the backboard. Kongs R Us has a very sweet mod on that. I do think it has some really good artwork. If you're a Star Wars fan, hey, and you want a mod, geez, there you go. You got a nice, if you're a Marvel fan. And of course, a lot of people are looking at that Attack from Mars, because I think most people agree that of all of the units discussed, this is the best looking one out of the box. It does look great. Okay, so now we get to the most expensive VPN unit on here, and it's also the largest. It is AtGames Ultimate Pinball Game, and that is 64 inches high, which is 1 inch shorter than Well Played. It's 42 inches long, and it's 19 inches wide, so it's actually one of the most narrow of all of the games. Of all of the 4 games that I would mention, I would probably least recommend buying this as a modding option. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, it's $800. So that you could build probably 4 virtual pinball, well, maybe not 4, but you could build a solid 2 tricked out machines from scratch for that kind of money. B, because of the way this system is designed, it allows you to run another computer off of it, and you run Zen games using the controllers on there. Now, you won't get haptic feedback, but you will be able to use the flippers. At that price point, with the 32-inch screen, with the active backboard, do you really want to be messing with that unit? Now, I know some people are going to, But I wouldn't. That's a lot of money. It's twice as much as the Toyshock Haunted House, and yes, it is a superior system, no doubt about it. But from a strictly modding point of view, I'm not so sure it makes a lot of sense to get that. Also, I don't mind the artwork on that unit, but it isn't like a specific brand. So if you were wanting your build to just be Aliens or just be Terminator 2 or whatever, again, you're going to have to be putting your own art on top of the cost of this machine. So let's round out this by talking about how big my machine is. Okay, so my build is 18 3/4 wide, so it's maybe a little wider than some, but it's right in there. It's exact same length as the Star Wars, Marvel, and Attack from Mars games at 36 inches long, so yeah, yardstick long, and it's 52.5 inches tall at the rear on the backboard. Now at the front of the game, it's 27 inches tall. I couldn't get measurements for any of the front of any of the games I've mentioned previously, and I don't know how long each of the pinball legs are for each of those machines. So that could be something that you could change the height, like the Haunted House game from Toyshock. Maybe if I just put different legs on it, it would, look a lot beefier than it does. So anyway, that should give you a kind of an idea of where my virtual pinball from scratch build is. What one would I recommend you use in terms of modding? Well, obviously the Toyshock is the cheapest, but it's also the smallest. I'm not sure that it can hold a 32-inch TV. It may or it may not. It's something I'm going to investigate if I can ever get my hands on one. If you own a Toyshock, maybe you could do a little quick measurement for us. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you have any comments, corrections, please, I try to be as accurate as I can. I'm not always, of course. We kick these things out pretty quickly. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Love each other. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah!
People are here to protect you. Our soldiers.
Yo! Stop your grinning and drop your linen. Found him.
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.